Okay, so good evening, everyone. So, can you hear me well?
Yes, can.
Okay, so let's start the meeting. Uh, so today we're gonna teach you about internal structures and functions of a bird. Actually, it's a general introduction for the internal structures. And we'll also teach you about the main systems of them. So first see what are internal structures and functions. Internal structures are organs, tissues, and systems working in collaboration to fuel and keep the body running throughout its life. Internal functions are the processes carried by each systems and organs to do so. So let's see what uh, systems we can see in birds. Yes, these are the main systems of a bird. It's the blood circulatory system, the respiratory system, the digestive system, skeletal system, muscular system, nervous system, and reproductive system. Most of these systems have a similar structure to that of a mammal. So, uh, but some have some bit unique uh, build uniquely built structure. There are some systems that are uniquely built for specific reasons, such as to take on flight. So let's first look at the blood circulatory system. All right, then the blood circulatory system of a bird is just like that of a mammal. It's very similar, and yes, it's also efficient as that. The heart is, if you take the main organ of the blood circulatory system, it's always be the heart. It will be always be the heart, and if you take bird's heart, it's much similar to a human heart, but there are some differences. Like this valve over here is called the right atrioventricular valve, which is much simpler than the tricuspid valve of a human. And the vein is called the cava vein, not vena cava. And the aorta uh, divides into three large vessels at the base of the base of that blood vessels. So there are some differences of the structure of the heart compared of for mammal. Blood vessels, if you take, it's also much like of mammals. You can see in this picture, this is the vessel system of rooster. It's very similar to that of a mammal. It's just distributes over the ribs to the legs and more concentrated to the brain. And their blood circulatory system is adapted by carnivorous dinosaurs because their ancestors were predators. So they need to have a very efficient blood circulatory system. As they evolved from carnivorous dinosaurs, birds ought to have a very efficient circulatory system. So now let's see the respiratory system. This is a bit unique to them. This is not like of any animal on earth. This system is consist of lungs and other parts that no other animal in earth has. It's much more efficient and much more the breathing technique is much more different than other vertebrates and other invertebrates. So if you take the respiratory system, here is the lung, and these blue colored air packs like structures are known as air sacs. There are many air sacs like the clavicular air sac, abdominal air sac, anterior thoracic air sac, posterior thoracic air sac, These are used to store air when the bird is flying, and it also helps to breathe in a special way. And if you take a mammal, the mammal breathes by moving the diaphragm up and down. It's very easy, but it's called the tidal respiration. And yes, most mammals have them, most mammals and most vertebrates. But birds, they don't have any diaphragm. They breathe while when they inhales, they fill these air sacs with oxygen-rich air, and these rear sacs with oxygen-filled air, and the exhaled air is expelled through these frontal air sacs. So that way, the exhaled air never mixes with the oxygen-rich inhaled air. That's why the respiratory system is considered as one of the most efficient respiratory system. It's called one-way breathing. And they are present respiratory system, if you say, was developed during the Cretaceous period, because that's when birds started to fly. That's when they needed more oxygen. So let's take the digestive system. The digestive system is also a bit similar to ours, but there are some differences. Like they have this elastic area of the esophagus, also it's known as the crop. Most pigeons and roosters have a much bit large crop because they eat very fast. They need to store food, but the food doesn't digest in here. It just stores there temporarily, and this is called the proventriculus. Actually, this is the gizzard. This is the two parts of the bird's stomach. It's divided into two parts. Proventriculus doesn't have that much muscles in it, but it has glands that secretes acids and digestive juices, while gizzard doesn't have any glands, but the gizzard is consisting of is consisted with a muscular wall, and that's where they grind their food into smaller particles. This is the duodenum. It's a part that you can even see in humans too, and this is the pancreas. Then it goes to be the small intestine, and then it goes to the large intestine. Actually, they have a bit long cecums. These are called ceca. Even humans have them, but it's not that much big. Their large intestine is much shorter compared to their body and the length of the rest of the gut. And the large intestine and go open to the cloaca. This cloaca is the opening. Is also the opening for not just the digestive tract, but also to the urinary and the reproductive tract. And here's a little bit fun fact: some bird species like pigeons make a special food called crop milk for their chicks by shedding the inner lining of their crop, and they feed it to their chicks. This digestive system, if you say so, is more like of a carnivorous animal, because they got evolved, as I said before, they got evolved from carnivorous dinosaurs. So let's see the skeletal system. The skeletal system is also a bit unique for them. Their skeletal system is very lightweight compared to a skeletal system of a mammal. It's because the skeletal systems have hollow holes inside them, making them more lighter. Then you will get the questions why. Then they can be very brittle, can break easily. But recent research have found that the components of the bones in a bird is much denser than that of a mammal, so it makes their bones stronger too, and yes, it won't make it brittle, even though they have holes inside them. Almost every bird have this feature, except some birds like penguins, puffins, and loons. Mm. And yeah, you'll get the reason why these birds don't have hollowed bones. It's because these birds, if you say these birds are mostly divers. Penguins is also a diver. Puffin also used to dive and find food. Loons are also diving birds. So it's very hard to dive when there's air spaces in your bones. So to make diving easy, they don't have that much hollowed bones with them. Uh, Even flightless birds have hollowed bones. This is also an adaptation which they got during the um, Cretaceous period, which is the period uh, that birds took flight for the first time. And this is a fun fact. The birds have a very deep breastbone, which helps to attach their large pectoral muscle, also known as the breast muscles. Humans and mammals also have this bone, yes, but it's not prominent. It's just a small bone near the rib cage. Muscular system. Most of the birds have muscular systems specialized for flying, as their the main locomotion method is flying. Uh, their muscular system is more like of their ancestral dinosaurs. Not much difference, and they have about 175 individual muscles, mostly associated with the leg and wings, and the most prominent muscle is their breast muscle. The reason why it is so large at the moment at modern birds is because it is very useful in flying, because they have to flap their wings all the time to go through long distances, so they need uh, large breast muscles. And but if we take such as the ancestors like the Deinonychus, which is the dinosaur that later evolved into the Archaeopteryx, which became the first bird, didn't have these large breast muscles because they are more related to dinosaurs. And because of that, they couldn't fly. But the Archaeopteryx could glide, but not fly. Gliding is a bit different from flying. And this is another fun fact. The breast muscle, or also known as the pectoral muscle, is the largest muscle of a bird. Even in flightless birds like ostriches, the breast muscle, also known as the pectoral muscle, is the largest muscle. The nervous system. So if you take the nervous system of a bird, bird's nervous system is just if you take their peripheral nervous system, their nervous system is much more like of a mammal. But if you take their central nervous system and their brain, it's a bit unique. Uh, Bird's peripheral nervous system this picture shows the nervous system of a little chick. As you can see, it's very similar to ours. They start from the brain and from the spinal cord and disperse. If it and if their brain is very astonishing, and it's a very fun part to look at, because their brain is very small compared to their body. So as you can see, this is the head of a goose, and this is its brain. It's very small compared to the head. But if we take other animals, reptiles, maybe mammals of the same size, and sometimes they might even have larger brains, birds have shown that they are more intelligent than them. So researchers start to examine their brains and then found out that their brains are densely packed with neurons. If even though they're small, though they're small in size, their neurons are packed very densely. So they have more neurons than an animal of the same size, which might even have a bigger brain. So that makes birds very intelligent species. And if you take the most intelligent bird species, which is known as the common raven, is known to have intelligence of an 8-year-old child, which is very fascinating. Mm, they're these. So you might think, how did they got this kind of advanced brain? Because they evolved from birds dinosaurs known as raptors. Raptors are a group of small carnivorous dinosaurs in the theropod group, which they hunted in packs. So, and as they're small and their prey animals are very big, they needed to overthink them rather than overpower them. So that's why birds have this very advanced and and a complex brain and a nervous system. The reproductive system. If you take the reproductive system of a bird, and if you take the male reproductive system, it's much simpler, not that much complex than like of a mammal. But if their female reproductive system is very complex, you can see many parts like the follicle, mature ovum, infundation, magnum, isthmus, shell gland with uterus and the vagina. Some of these parts are not even in mammal reproductive system because these are oviparous animals, not large, not animals that give birth to live young. So that's their reproductive systems are adapted to look more like of oviparous animals. You might think, where do birds' eggs get their shell? This is where the shell is formed. This is called the uterus of a bird. It's not like a uterus of a mammal. It's very different. In this uterus, there is a gland called shell gland, which secrete calcium and other metallic alkaline metal, something calcium carbonate, which hardens the surface of the egg and make a hard shell around the egg to protect the embryo. And yes, it passes through the vagina and comes to cloaca. And that's when the female birds lay the egg. This system is actually, if we take relatively, it's much more simpler than mammals. And this is also one of the system of birds that is still unchanged since they first appeared. So we also get the question, why we need to learn this information. Why is that? It's because the birds are the second most successful animal group on Earth. So they play a big role in keeping the ecological balance. Not only the ecological balance, also helps to keep the beauty of the environment. It's so because of that, and if they go extinct, the whole Earth will go out of balance. So to conserve them, we also need to know about their diets, their reproductive nature, and their behaviors. So, and the best way to study them is studying their internal structures. You can study their diets by looking at the digestive systems, and then you can decide where these kind of birds lives. And you can also say that by reproductive nature, by looking at the reproductive systems. And so that's the most important thing of learning is most important point of learning the internal structures of the birds. And it's it's also a very interesting field. You can do it uh, very easily. So that's all for today. I didn't got much information, so so if you have any questions about internal structures, you can tell it or you can put it to the chat box.
Excuse me, I have a question. Is there a difference between digestive systems and food mechanism of flightless birds when compared to other birds? If there's a difference, please can you explain?
Actually, the bird's digestive system is almost the same in everyone because they are evolved from carnivorous dinosaurs. And yes, but there's one small difference that flightless birds use. Flightless birds' gizzards aren't much strong as of that of other birds, so they eat stones, little stones, not big ones, so to help them digest their food in the gizzard. Do you have any more questions? You can put it in the chat box. It's okay. It's okay. You can put it into the chat box. You can ask any question. Yes, yes, someone has asked birds metabolism is very fast. So do they have any specific cooling system? Yes, and there's one called sluttering where they uh, open their mouth and move their tongue very fast, and which relies the heat out from their mouth, just like dogs do by panting. Do you have any questions? More questions?
Excuse me, is there a special function of air sacs?
Yes, air sacs function. I'll tell it again. Air sacs is also used to store air, and it's also used in one-way breathing, which is the technique of breathing of birds. It's not like ours, as birds don't have a diaphragm. They feel when they inhale, they feel oxygen-rich air in some of their air sacs, and ex- uh, exhales the other used air from some other air sacs because there are many air sacs. Mostly, they use the rear air sacs to store air, and the front air sacs to exhale over, and that way the exhaled air never mixes with the inhaled air. So it's also that's why their respiratory system is called very efficient. Uh, in if you take a breathing of a human, we sometimes the exhaled air mixes with our inhaled air, and that's not good. Actually, it's not efficient. If you have questions, you can put in the chat box. It's all right. You can put your questions in the chat box. Any questions? Yeah, someone else was if you can explain about the wing skeleton structure. Well, the bones of the wings actually don't have much solid bone at all. It's almost hollow. So that makes the wings very lightweight, but the material that makes them is much denser. Not so that also makes it strong.
Is the wing bones made from same as keratin?
Actually, much more stronger and a denser material, not keratin. Actually, it's not still found yet. It's a bit denser than the calcium too. Do you have any questions? The meeting only lasts for 1 minute, and if you have any questions, please ask them quickly. Just put them into the chat box. Someone has asked if are they spongy bones? No, they're not spongy; they're hard, but they have hollows in them.